Hey guys, what's up? I'm back. Told you I'd be back. Um, so, hi, it's me, Jason again. For anybody that missed my first episode or whatever, my name's Jason Real. I started doing a podcast about fantasy sports because I love fantasy sports and I love talking about it. Um, so, hopefully, soon I'll have an intro. One of my buddies is working on an intro for me, so we'll see. Hopefully, I have it soon. Um, he's pretty awesome. So today I'm gonna do my tight end tiers because I kind of slacked off on research. So I picked tight ends because there's not very many of them, and it's easy to put them in tiers because there's not that many of them. Um, so I did do some research. I didn't completely skip out on the research, but I did do some, and I watched some film on the rookies. Once again, I'm not super knowledgeable about rookies. I don't watch college football much right now. I'm trying to get to watch it more. Um, but I did watch some film on a couple of the rookie tight ends just to see how they played and see what kind of stuff they were having issues with and what they were good at. So I did do some research. So, you know, I'm trying. I'm doing it. I'm doing my research. I'm really trying to do the stuff to make this thing go right. So yeah. uh, so anyway, got my handy notebook where I write all this stuff down at while I'm looking at it, and we'll just go from there. Uh, so I guess I'll start on these tiers. Um, so obviously at tier one, at the top of the list, George Kittle. Um, he's just so talented, and I don't know that there's a good enough wide receiver there to take away a lot of away a lot of targets just because he's that good. So he's the main target on the team. He's super talented. The only issue is the quarterback questions, whether they're going to stick with Jimmy G or whether they're going to get somebody else. Um, If they stick with Jimmy G, I don't see Kittle being anything less than he has been, which is like a top one or two tight end. Especially if he doesn't get hurt this season. He did get hurt last season, so there is always a possibility of him getting hurt again, and that making his making his points dip. But if he's on the field and he's playing for a full season, he is probably the best tight end in the NFL right now. The youngest and best tight end in the NFL right now. And then also in the same tier with him, I have Kelsey. And I really didn't want to put Kelsey up there just because he's getting older and uh, I don't know how many more years he has left to do it, being as good as he is. But with his year last year, and the fact that he's targeted so much on that offense, like he gets over 100 targets every year on that offense. Even though they have a lot of other pieces in that offense, he still gets targeted consistently by Mahomes. So I had to put him in this tier too. He's steady, he's talented, he has a good QB, and the only issue is his age. He's getting up there, so I don't know how many more years he's going to be elite like this, but I think he's going to be at least elite this year and probably next year. And I don't see them replacing him anytime soon. So, so yeah, my tier one, Kittle and Kelsey, the two K brothers. Uh, they're just at the top of this list. Like if you have either one of them on your team, it was like having Gronk back in the day. You have a very big advantage at that position, especially if it's a tight end premium, which a lot of leagues are going to now. Um, I'm in a lot of tight end premium leagues, it's becoming super popular. I think it's going to be a lot like PPR and Superflex. Like most people are going to Superflex now. You're very rarely find one QB leagues. I mean, there's still a lot of one QB leagues, but most people want to play Superflex. And then now PPR is like the standard format. You almost don't find any leagues that aren't PPR. And I think tight end premium is going to be like that too. It's going to be like it's going to be something where tight end premium is becoming the standard for leagues. And you'll be hard pressed to find a league that won't have at least some tight end premium, like 1.25 at a minimum. I mean, I'm in a Trade Addicts podcast, and I'm in a Trade Addicts league, and I'm in the Hogwarts league with Outhouse, and they're both 1.75, and I think a couple of my other leagues are 1.75. So, all right. So moving on to tier 2. These guys are just like this is tier 1 and this is tier 2. They're close, but they're just not quite as good as those other guys. Like they're just not quite to their level of consistency and talent. At the top of this list, I have Mark Andrews still. Just with that first year he had, he balled out of his mind, and he has the talent. He's shown the top tier ability. Like he was in the top 5 in tight ends. The only question with him is the quarterback going to throw the ball enough for him to get a lot of points? He did have an off year last year, and I think that was mainly because the offense changed a lot from the first year. They need to go back to doing what they did that first year. But he still has the ability to be a top-end tight end, and I think you are still going to value that. Like it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take me much to give up Kelsey to give up Kelsey for Andrews. Like you give me Andrews, and I would say you give me Andrews in a second, probably a mid to upper second. But you give me a Andrews in a second, and I would trade Kelsey in a heartbeat. It would probably take Andrews in a first to get to Kittle, but. And then below him, I have TJ Hawkinson, just because of the way he played at the end of the year last year. And I think he's going to do better. And with Goff there now, Goff likes to throw the tight end. And they just don't have anything at wide receiver. Like I know they're going to draft somebody, but they just got nothing at wide receiver. So I see Hawkinson getting a lot of looks, especially from Goff. Because Goff likes to throw to the tight end to bail him out. And I feel like Hawkinson's going to have a big year. I feel he's going to be, I would almost put it, if I had to guess at the end of the year, here's my hot take for the year. If I had to guess the ranks at the end of the year, it's going to be Kittle, Kelsey, Hawkinson. It's the top 3 tight ends. I think he's that good. And then Darren Waller is at the bottom of that tier, just because he's shown it for a couple of years now where he's talented. He has talent. They do have more weapons on that team, but, I mean, he's been underrated this whole time because he's been good and people just aren't saying his name with these other guys, and I don't get it. He's shown more than any of these other guys that I'm about to list. We'll save one. He's done more than any of these other guys I'm about to list in tier 3 except one. And, I probably would take – it would probably take Waller plus for me to give up Hawkinson or Andrews, but, I mean, it wouldn't take much. Hell, you might get Waller for pretty cheap since he's still been kind of underrated. I mean, maybe not for people who know what they're doing, but you get somebody who's got Waller and maybe they're not as experienced, you might be able to get him semi-cheap because people aren't talking about him as much. So So there is that possibility. So that's like a mark in his favor because you might be able to get him cheaper than these other guys. Hawkinson's going to cost you to get him. I got a guy wanting me to give up Hawkinson right now, and I don't think I'm going to do it. He's offered me some good pieces, but Hawkinson's just too good. I want him on my team. So then at the tier 3, I have Dallas Goedert. Is at the top of that list for me. Need to see more. There's a new QB, so I don't know how that's going to work for him, but he has the talent. Like, I think he's going to be the tight end 1 on that team this year. And, with that new quarterback, he might get more bailouts, so Goddard might get to see more targets. And there's also a lack of receivers on the Eagles. I think Goddard's good. I'd like to see him do good. I'd like to see him be in the top 5. We'll just have to wait and see how he does this year when he's the guy. And below him, I have Fant. He has the talent. He's just not very consistent. Like, he hasn't done it consistently. He's shown flashes of being great and being good, but he hasn't done it enough to rank higher than this. And then you also have the QB questions with him because is Drew Lock going to be the quarterback all year? How good is Drew Lock going to be next year? And then there's more weapons on that team. Cortland Sutton's coming back from his injury. So you're going to have Sutton, you're going to have Judy, you're going to have Hamler, and then the 2 running backs, Melvin Gordon and Royce Freeman. So, and then if they draft anybody, they still might draft another wide receiver or running back or something. So there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed in Denver, and I don't know that Drew Lock's going to be able to do that. So I kind of have Fant ranked a little lower just because of all the issues with the team and then his inconsistency with having those great games. And then below him, I have Hunter Henry. The only reason I have Hunter ranked this low is because of his injuries and because he's on the New England Patriots now. And I don't know who's throwing the ball there. It might be Cam, it might not be. But there's big quarterback questions there. He's on a new team. He's super talented, but he's had a lot of injuries over his career. And, we just got to wait and see how he adapts to the Patriot way, the Bill Belichick way. So we got to see how that. And they signed another good tight end too. So they got 2 good tight ends. They don't have many receivers, but they have 2 good tight ends, and don't know who's throwing them the ball. So I don't know how that's going to work out for him. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's why he's ranked this low. If they get somebody good to throw him the ball and he gets, he's clearly the number 1 target over the other tight end, then I'll probably move him up a little bit. And then below him, I have Evan Ingram, just because of his injury issues too, and he's shown that he can be that one of the top guys. Like his rookie year, he was fantastic, but he's been inconsistent as well. And then you have the quarterback questions. Are they going to stick with Daniel Jones, or are they going to have to move on soon because they're not winning? I think most of the issues with tight end right now is the quarterback problems. Like, who's going to throw these guys the ball? Because there's some good tight ends, but they're in teams that don't have quarterbacks or good quarterbacks. So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how Evan Ingram does. Hopefully that team gets back on track with Saquon coming back and Daniel Jones can get in the groove, and maybe they get an actual number 1 wide receiver. Like a number 1 wide receiver, and to take some of that attention away from Evan Ingram and Saquon, and then Evan Ingram can stretch that field. Oh, pardon me. Then below him, I have Jonnu Smith because he's been a good tight end, but he went to the Patriots, so that'll be interesting to see how him and that'll be interesting to see how him and Hunter Henry get along as two tight ends in the Patriots. I mean, it could be a Gronk Hernandez thing, like where they're both really freaking good. That might be what they're trying to go for again, instead of wide receivers. I mean, I still think they need to get some wide receivers in there, but and then below him I have Irv Smith Jr. just because still his quarterback is not the best. I mean, Cousins is good, but we don't know how much they're going to actually throw the ball and whether they're just going to run with Dalvin Cook or what. So I have him down towards the bottom of this tier. He has shown some flashes of being a good receiver, but again, I haven't seen enough of him. And I definitely want to see more, and I definitely want to see how that team handles the targets and all that kind of stuff, before I move him up any. And then the last guy on this tier is Mike Gesicki. They're still waiting for Gesicki to show the talent that he has. I mean, the dude is uber talented. He's super fast. He can catch the ball, but can he do it consistently? So we're still waiting to see that. And also, you have the quarterback questions there. Is Tua going to be the guy there? They seem to hem and haw with Tua last year, so I don't know if Tua is going to be the guy this year, how good he's going to be. I mean, they have another year to work on their chemistry, and Tua is going to be the guy this year for sure, at least at the beginning. But he's got to be consistent. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I don't know why I'm yawning so much. But yeah. So definitely, there's a lot of questions Gesicki has to answer before he can move up. But I mean, he's still talented enough to be. I mean, he could be a top 10 guy. He could be a top 5 guy. It's in the realm of possibility. That's the problem with all these like lower end, like this tier 3. They're all pretty much interchangeable. They could all be a top 5 guy. They could all not be. It just depends on how good they do this year. So, like, that's the kind of the dilemma at tight end is besides these first, like, 5 guys, Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, and Waller, then you're just kind of throwing darts at a board. So getting one of those top 5 guys is kind of a big deal. It's going to definitely set you up to be at an advantage at the tight end position. And, it'd be good for you to get one of those top guys, but you're going to have to pay up to get them. That's for sure. Then I have my tier 4 guys. I have at the top of that tier, I have Robert Tonyan, just because he's somebody that we didn't know about and he came out of nowhere. I mean, he did good, but is he going to be that good again? Can he keep doing it? Are they going to get any wide receivers there in Green Bay? What's his name, going to step up? Sternberger. Is Sternberger going to step up and take some touches away from Tonyan? We'll have to see about that. I mean, he came on big. He produced a big season. Caught a lot of people's eye. He's got good chemistry with Rodgers. I think Rodgers likes him. He could, if he does it again this year, he's definitely going to move up my board. He's definitely going to move up into that tier 3 towards the top if he has another season like he did last year. Below him, I have Logan Thomas, who did good last year. He really came on at the end of the year, showed flashes of being good. We don't know who's going to be the quarterback there in Washington. And that team just in general is not very good. But, I mean, they have some wide receivers that take the attention away from the tight end position because, I mean, you can't single cover McLaurin and then that's going to leave guys open. So that might leave Thomas open for some stuff, especially if they get another wide receiver in there and they get a quarterback that actually throw him the ball. So I think he has a good chance to be a top 10, top 15, tight end. I mean, he'd be good for your tight end too. I probably wouldn't trust him to be my starter, but he's definitely worth having a roster spot and being on your team and maybe being your number 2 tight end. Oh, good Lord, excuse me. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I'm not even that tired. It's been a long day. Long day. So, pardon me for yawning. I apologize. And then below Logan Thomas, I have Cole Kmet. I know the Bears have like 80,000 tight ends, and they don't know how to use any of them, but I figure at some point they're going to get a better quarterback, and Cole Kmet has the talent. He was the first guy drafted last year, first tight end drafted last year, so he's definitely got the talent, and he definitely has the opportunity. I mean, they're not super stacked at wide receiver in Chicago, so if they get a quarterback that likes to throw the ball, the ball's got to go somewhere. And I think Cole Kmet has a good chance, good opportunity to step up and definitely make some noise as a top guy. I'm hoping to move him up the list too, you know. Then after Cole Kmet, I have Zach Ertz. He kind of fell off a little last year. He's still super talented, but I don't think he's going to be the top guy on that team this year, if he's even still on the team this year. I think Goddard's going to be the guy this year there in Philadelphia, so we'll just wait and see what happens with Ertz. Because, he's getting older, and they're not going to want to pay him. Actually, I did not look to see if they had already let him go. That is my bad. I should probably know these things. Give me 1 second. We'll look that up real quick. You think with all the stuff I was looking at, I would have seen that. Okay, so he's still on the team right now, but they're probably definitely looking. They're probably definitely looking to move on from him. Yeah, I would say there'd be somebody that would probably trade for him. So my guess is he's not going to be on the Eagles, and he might be a decent go. Depending on where he goes, he might be decent to pick up and play. He's got talent. He's just getting older, and he goes somewhere with a good quarterback though, and that might not matter. He might get some targets. So he's the guy to watch because you'll probably be able to get him pretty cheap now because he's fallen off quite a bit, and you might be able to pick him up pretty cheaply, and if he goes somewhere good, he might turn out to be a sneaky top guy. And then below him, I have Austin Hooper. He had that good year that got him the paycheck in Cleveland, but last year in Cleveland, he did not do very good. So we'll just have to see if that gets any better there in Cleveland. We'll have to see what happens with our receivers. OBJ might be moving on, so that might open up some targets for Hooper. Yeah, like I said, he's shown some ability. He kind of had a lackluster year. He's got good talent, and he's a big money option there. Like they paid for him, so they're probably going to use him again this year at least, and just see if that money that they paid is going to pay off or not. But I'm sorry. Did I say this was my tier 4? Yeah, Robert Tonyan was the start of my tier 4. So we'll just run down those tiers again real quick. So tier 1, I had Kittle and Kelsey. Tier 2, I had Mark Andrews, TJ Hockenson, and Darren Waller. Tier 3, I had Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant, Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram, Jonnu Smith, Irv Smith Jr., Mike Gesicki. Tier 4 is Robert Tonyan, Logan Thomas, Cole Kmet, Zach Ertz, Austin Hooper. Pardon me. So those are my first 4 tiers right now. I have one more tier of guys I listed, and then I listed some guys that might be shots in the dark that have a possibility of being good, but they definitely aren't like guys everybody's going to be looking at. So So tier 5, I have Tyler Higbee, who, they went and got Stafford and stuff, but they still have a lot of wide receivers there. And they got the running backs that are coming on. So, I don't know if that's going to affect his. I don't know if that's going to affect Higbee's targets or not. So we'll have to see. I know. I'm pretty sure Joe Everett went to. Where did Everett go? He went to another team. Yeah, he went to the Seahawks. So. With Everett gone and Higbee being the only guy there, that might make his targets go up. You never know. Or they might sign another tight end or find one in the draft. So there's a lot of question marks about Higbee. He is talented, though. So, he could see enough to be. I would say top 15. I don't think he would break the top 10. I definitely don't see him as a top 10 guy. Top 15, though, tight end 2, maybe tight end 3. And then below him, I have Hayden Hurst, who was supposed to be uber talented and all that stuff, and then wasn't the best tight end on his team, but, he's in Atlanta with Matt Ryan. So we'll just have to see how that goes, and if he picks it up and does better. I think he still has an ability to be a good tight end. Again, I don't see him as being a top 10 guy, but top 15 he could probably be. And then below him, O.J. Howard. Again, a guy that's super talented and is supposed to do really good, but just hasn't hit the mark yet. So if he ever gets there, he does have Tom Brady as his quarterback. Rob Gronkowski's still there. The other guy is still there. Shoot. See, I told you I was going to end up blanking on names again. I need a partner just to help me with remembering names, because if we're being honest, I've been in the Army for a long time, 20 years almost in December, and I've had quite a few concussions, so my memory is not the best, so I space out. That's why I write everything down. So, I have some issues with memory, but I definitely try to remember. I generally remember more things than I forget. But, starting my podcast, being on here and talking to people, it's a little nervous, so it makes me forget things sometimes. So don't mind me. I'll look it up as I go. I'm pretty handy with Google. So, they got Gronkowski, they got O.J. Howard, and they still have Cameron Brate. I knew it was somebody. I knew it. Cameron Brate. So Cameron Brate's still there, and Cameron Brate's showing flashes of being a good tight end. So we'll just have to wait and see what O.J. Howard does this year. He's also had some injuries at the beginning of his career, so maybe he moves past all those injuries and he ends up being a good player. So I'm kind of hoping. Then below O.J. Howard, I have Gerald Everett. Seattle hasn't had a decent tight end in a while. Will Dissly has shown flashes of being good, but he can't stay healthy, and he's kind of had a lackluster year himself. So Gerald Everett made some plays there with the Rams, even being the second guy from Higbee. So, maybe him being the top guy in the Russell Wilson offense, he might make some hay with this new team. So, he might be a good guy to look at for the cheap, and you could plug him in and he could win you a couple of weeks. He's worth a shot just like any of these guys are. Some of these guys are worth the shot just to see if they'll win you a couple of weeks, because they'll have a couple of weeks where they're like 70, 80 yards and a couple of touchdowns, or 3 touchdowns and 20 yards or whatever. That's generally what you're looking for at a tight end, besides these top guys who are getting the 100-yard games and 2 touchdowns every game. The Kelsey, the Kittle, those guys that are doing it consistently. With these lower end guys, you're just looking for those guys that'll get you those big weeks every now and again to help you win a game here and there. Especially if you have one of those top guys and you grab your second tight end like super late, you can grab one of these guys to fill in for bye weeks, and they hit on the week you fill them in, and then you didn't even miss your top end guy. That's pretty much all you can do with tight ends, is just grab some of these guys that have the chance to score them big games, and then hopefully you put them in the right games that end up winning you the games. Tight end is very hit or miss with outside those top guys, so you definitely got to be on it with the tight ends. And then below Everett, I have David Njoku. If I'm being honest, I only have him here because I have him on a bunch of teams, and I traded for him in one team where I gave up a first-round pick, and I'm just hoping he finally does something. Because I definitely need him to go off on this one team, because otherwise that trade looks really bad. Really, really bad. And then below him I have Harrison Bryant, who has a good chance at being the guy at Cleveland. He's played better than Njoku has there. So I think Harrison Bryant has the ability to be, he might even be better than Hooper. So he's a guy you probably want to pick up if you have Hooper, just in case Hooper doesn't pan out like they're expecting and Harrison Bryant ends up taking over. I'm 100%. I'm kind of sure that I'm right about Harrison Bryant is the other tight end on the Cleveland Browns. I guess somebody will let me know if I'm wrong, right? Yeah, he's the other guy in Cleveland Browns. So, who knows? Maybe Hooper doesn't do as good as they think he's going to do, and Harrison Bryant comes on and is the guy. That could happen. So that's the end of my tier 5. And then, I kind of have a list of the rest of the best, guys you might stash at the end of your bench, or, maybe you just throw them. I think you could put one of these guys on your taxi squad, but other than that, I don't think you could put any other one. Well, actually, you might be able to put 3 of them on your taxi squad if your taxi squad allows you to have second-year players on there. No. Sternberger's a third year, so I don't think you could put him. But Troutman, I think this is his second year, so you could probably stash him on a taxi squad if that's possible. He went to the Saints, and the Saints tight end position has always been an interesting one. Everybody thinks it's going to be great, and then it ends up not being. But I think he has a good chance to be a good player. Yeah, he's on the Saints, so I think he has a good chance. He could be a guy there that gets you some points. So, he might be a guy you could stash in your taxi squad or stash at the end of your bench, and hopefully, especially if you have a bigger bench. I would say if you have a smaller bench, not a lot of players, like a 30-man roster or lower, 28-man roster, then I would not grab any of these guys. I would try to get me one of the top guys and like a tier 3 or 4 guy, and that would be it. And I definitely wouldn't stash this, but I have a couple of fantasy teams that have like 40-man rosters with 15-man practice squads. So, and they're practice squads, so you can have players that are not rookies and second years on your practice squad. So I have Troutman, I have Sternberger. He got drafted as a guy in Green Bay, and then Tunyon came on, so maybe Sternberger just goes away. But he's a guy you can look at and maybe stash and see if he does anything this year. Then I put Rob Gronkowski just because he's still. I don't know. I haven't heard if he retired yet again or not. I thought I saw something where he was not going to play this year. He was only playing the 1 year. Okay, so he signed another 1 year contract with the Bucks for 2021. So, so he'll still be there. So he might be somebody you throw there, and in a couple weeks he'll score you like 30 points. Then I have Eric Ebron, which if he's still with the Steelers, he might be a good play. He might be a guy that if he fixes those drops that he has. Eric Ebron is so confusing because he makes some amazing plays and then he drops some of the easiest passes, and I don't understand it. Like, I just want him to be consistently good. And then I got Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, the Cowboys tight ends, with Dak back. One of them is going to be the guy, and both of them have showed flashes of being good. So, you can pick them up and kind of decide between the two of them which one's going to be the guy there in the Cowboys. Then I have Albert O. Just because of if Drew Lock's still the quarterback in Denver, Albert O has some familiarity with him. I think there's too many mouths to feed, really. I actually just dropped Albert O on a team because I have a bunch of other tight ends, and I just didn't feel the need to roster him anymore, so I dropped him. Probably should have tried to trade him, but oh well. Then I have Will Dissly and Chris Herndon. Both of them have shown flashes of being good. They just have not been consistent at all. And, they're just not really the guys that you're looking to pick up and are going to win you a league. They might win you a couple of games, but that's if you have the roster spots to be able to stash them and wait for them to hit. So just to go through my tiers again, I'm going to recap them again for you. Tier 1, I had George Kittle and Travis Kelce. Those are your top two guys. Those are going to be the guys that are going to win you your league, especially if you're in a tight end premium. If you're in a tight end premium, these two guys will win you your league, hands down. They're going to win you your league. If your team's good enough around them. They're not going to win you your league if your team is a bunch of scrubs outside of them, but they will definitely help you win your league. And then tier 2 is Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, and Darren Waller. These are also guys that have the possibility of helping you win your league. They're going to be good. They're going to definitely win you games. And they're definitely going to give you an advantage at the tight end spot because everybody after this is kind of in the same area. So if you get any one of these 5 guys, you're going to definitely have an advantage at the tight end spot. My tier 3 is a little bit bigger because these are kind of the interchangeable guys. They could all hit or they could not hit. They could all be top 10. They could not be top 10. You got Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant, Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram, Jonnu Smith, Irv Smith Jr., and Mike Gesicki. So you got some good names in there. They just have to consistently prove that they're that good. So you might be able to get a couple of these guys cheaper. and then they are your tight end one, and they're doing really good for you. They're definitely going to be cheaper than those top 5 guys. So they do have that going for them, but they're also a lot less consistent than those top 5 guys are. So you got to take the good with the bad. You got to take the lower cost and with the inconsistency. So tier 4, I have Robert Tonyan, Logan Thomas, Cole Kmet, Zach Ertz, and Austin Hooper. These are also guys who could hit and they could be good. And they could also get you 0 points a game. There is that possibility they throw a goose egg out there. It's less likely with these guys than with the next guys, but there's still the possibility that they're going to throw you a goose egg and they're not going to get you anything. And you're going to be like, why did I sign these guys? But there's also going to be those weeks where they get you like 3 touchdowns and you're like, oh, I love this guy. He's the best. He tight end 1. And no, he's not, because he's not that good. So you better make sure that if you have one of these Lorian guys that you got one of the top guys. Me personally, I throw my hat in with like 2 tier 3 guys as opposed to drafting one of the top 5 guys and drafting a guy later. But, I'd pick up Goddard and Ingram and be happy with that. But then again, I'm also not a big fan of the tight end position, so I don't pay attention to it much. And I was always the guy that drafted tight ends like in redraft. When I played redraft, it was you draft your whole team, and then you draft tight end, then you draft defense, then you draft kicker. So I was in that. Now I'm in all these tight end premium leagues and stuff, and I'm looking at tight ends super early, and I'm just like, this is way too early for me to be drafting a tight end. I do not like this at all. But, it's fun because it makes me think about the game differently than I thought about it before, and that's what fantasy football is. I mean, fantasy football is fun, and it definitely gets you thinking about the game and learning about it. Like, I've been a football fan since I was super small. Like, I haven't missed a Super Bowl since I was 2 years old. I don't know about before that because I don't remember before that, but 2 years old until 37, I have not missed a Super Bowl. So I thought I knew about football, and I thought I knew what I was talking about when it came to football. And then I started playing fantasy football, and I've learned so much about the game that I did not know. That's why I'm doing this now, because I've learned so much, and I want to talk about it because I love talking about it. So that's the thing with the tight end premium, get into different leagues than you're comfortable with, and do like tight end premium, super flex, Devy. Like I really want to find a Devy league because that's the only one I haven't done yet. IDP. Most of my leagues are IDP because I love doing IDP. I have contract salary cap leagues. I have 28 team salary cap league based on the NFL salary cap, and we actually pay the players their contracts. So, I'm in a lot of different leagues, and I like it because it makes me think about the game in different ways. And so that's what this tight end premium does. It makes me think about the game in ways that I've never thought about it before, and that's what I like. I like looking at the game in a different way, learning about it, talking about it. Like I'm sitting here talking to myself for 45 minutes, hoping somebody watches this and gets something out of it because, I love to talk about fantasy football. And I think I'm a funny guy. I think I'm a nice guy, and I like talking. So, also if you ever want to come on and be a guest and tell me how stupid I am about where I'm ranking these guys, you can always do that. You can come on and tell me how stupid, and then I'll tell you how wrong you are because I'm right. But no, I definitely love talking about it, and I definitely love doing this. And I'm going to keep doing it, even if I keep talking to myself from now until I'm 50. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to like it, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to have fun doing it. So then my tier 5 guys were Tyler Higbee, Hayden Hurst, OJ Howard, Jared Everett, David Njoku, and Harrison Bryant. They're just guys you can stash at the end of the bench, and maybe they turn out to be some like a diamond in the rough. Maybe not. If you have the bigger rosters, these are just guys I'd grab and throw at the end of your bench and see what happens with them. Maybe they win you a couple of games, maybe not. And then the best of the rest, I have Adam Troutman, Jay Sternberger, Rob Gronkowski, Eric Ebron, Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz, Elwood O, Will Dissly, and Chris Herndon. Just some guys in the names you can be paying attention to see if they actually do anything this year. They might be your waiver wire guys that you can, you have an injury at tight end, or one of your right around tier 3, tier 4 guys isn't producing the way you want, and all of a sudden Chris Herndon is blowing up. He might be on the waiver wire and you can grab him. He might not. You might be able to trade him for like a 4th round pick this year. I'm sure he's pretty cheap, so these are just guys you can go grab and just stick them at the end of your bench and don't cost you anything. And maybe it turns out they save your team. So then I said I'm not putting my rookies in my tiers right now. I'm going to do that later. I don't think I'm going to do another show before the draft. So I'm not going to do a draft show just because I wasn't prepared for that. I know. I'm new. I wasn't ready. And I forgot the draft was coming up soon, so I didn't prepare for it. So I'm not going to do a draft show, but I'll probably do one after the draft and just throw these guys in the tiers that I've already done, and based on where they're drafted and all that kind of stuff. So, but I did rank the rookies in their own tier, like here's my current NFL guys, here's my rookies guys. They're 2 separate lists right now. And I'll tell you where I would slide them in at if they were on a team. But I just made the list separate for whatever reason I decided to. I just decided to do it separately. That way I could talk more and you guys get more out of it. And you guys can listen to my beautiful voice and hear me talk and expound on how much I love fantasy football and talking about it. So obviously the number 1 rookie tight end is Kyle Pitts. He's got the talent. He's got the speed. He's basically a big wide receiver. But I was watching his film, and he is surprisingly a decent blocker. Sometimes you get these guys that all there are big wide receivers. But I watched him throw some blocks, and he held on to some blocks, and he did some good things with his blocking. That bodes well for him being a 3-down tight end. A 3-down tight end, because he can do the blocking and all that stuff. So, he doesn't have to come off the field in obvious run situations, which is good. You want your tight end to be able to do that. Like, I think one of the most underrated tight ends was Heath Miller. And I wish the Steelers had used him better, because the dude had hands. He could catch. He wasn't the fastest guy. He wasn't the best guy, but he could catch the ball. He could block. He could do everything. I think Heath Miller was one of the most underrated tight ends, especially in fantasy, because he never put up the fantasy points because Pittsburgh just didn't use him right. And I will say that till the day I die. Pittsburgh did not use Heath Miller right. He could have been way, way better for fantasy than he was. But, he was good for the team, and he did everything they asked him to do. So he's obviously at the top by himself. He's the tier 1, and he's the only one in tier 1. He's uber talented. Obviously, he needs to go to a team that's going to use him right. If a team's just going to throw him out there to be a blocker, then he's not going to do very good. They need to basically spread him out and be a big wide receiver. And he's definitely going to have the high draft capital to get playing time. It just depends on where he goes and what else they have at the position. Obviously, if you go somewhere like England or San Francisco, was like, there's talk that San Francisco was going to get him, and I just think that's dumb because they don't need him there. I would like him to go to Pittsburgh. FYI, I'm a Steelers fan, so I might reference Pittsburgh a lot just because I am a Steelers fan. I would like to see him go to Pittsburgh. I think he'd be a great addition to our team, especially if they're riding out Big Ben for one more year. Ooh. Don't get me started on that. But if they plan on riding out Big Ben for one more year, Kyle Pitts would be a great addition to that team. So below him, I have Brevin Jordan. I was watching his film. He's not as good at the blocking. Like, I would say Kyle Pitts is a better blocker than he is. He was just kind of very lackluster with his blocking and missed a lot of blocks, and like guys were blowing right by him. And, it's just, I feel like his blocking is not as good. So he might be more of a first and second down tight end than a 3-down tight end. He's got the catchability, still not as good. He's still not as talented as Pitts. And again, he needs to go to a team that's going to use him the proper way. If he goes to some team where they're not going to use him much, then he's going to be like a Gesicki or like a OJ Howard, guys that were like coming out that were supposed to be really good and ended up disappointing people. So hopefully he goes to a good place, a good spot, and they use him the way he is, and he comes on and becomes one of the top guys. And then below him, I have Freiermuth, who's probably the better blocker out of the top three. He's definitely the guy that's going to be the better blocker, and probably is going to be used more that way. He's decently talented. He's a step slower than the other two guys, and he's a solid prospect. He's gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. I said I was gonna tell you where I slid these guys in. So Kyle Pitts, I slide into tier 3. Probably after Ingram. I probably put him in between Ingram and Smith, just because I've seen. I haven't seen anything from him in the NFL level, so he could be as good as Evan Ingram in his rookie season and then fall off, just like Evan Ingram did. So, I think I'm going to put him right there with Evan Ingram above Jonnu Smith and Irv Smith and Gesicki. And then, obviously, Brevin and Pat, I would throw in the tier 4, probably at the top, like below Gesicki in tier 3 and above Tonyan in tier 4. Obviously, I'm going to move Tonyan up if he has another year like he had last year, because then he's proven it that he's that good and he's going to consistently be that good. But, these guys have a chance to be just as good. So I think Freiermuth has a chance to be as good as Tonyan does. And it definitely depends on where he goes and how he's used and all that. He's probably going to be asked to block a lot more than the other guys are, just because he's better at it. So we'll have to see how that goes. It might be a Heath Miller case, although I don't know that he's that good with his hands. And then tier 3, I just have the rest of them. Hunter Long, Kenny Yoba, Tommy Tremble, Noah Gray, Nick Eubanks, and Tony Pollin. I don't know how to say that name. The only other one I could find film on was Hunter Long. He's a decent blocker. He dropped a lot of balls. He reminded me of Ebron, like bad case of the dropsies. Just didn't look that great catching the ball. He was definitely a good blocker, so maybe that's how he gets used. But that wouldn't do us any good because we don't care about blocking. All these guys I would probably throw in like with the rest of the best. Like I don't even think I would put them in a tier right now. I just don't think that they're going to be good enough for that. So, yeah. So I probably wouldn't even put them in a tier. I'd probably just throw them down there with the rest of the best. So that's my tight end tiers. Feel free to watch this later. Leave me comments. Let me know how much it sucked. What you disagreed with, what you thought I was spot on with, I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to talk, and I'd love to have people on as guests and talk to them and argue it out and tell you my point of view. You can tell me your point of view and we can agree to disagree. But I definitely love talking about fantasy football. I definitely love doing this. So hopefully you guys enjoy me doing it, and I'll just keep doing it and keep doing it until I get tired of it. Yeah, like I said, hopefully soon I'll have an intro and an outro. I'll probably use the intro to be my outro too. My friend's working on it for me. He's kind of a musician, so definitely looking forward to that. And I'm going to try to do like a couple of banners and that kind of thing. So it's still a work in progress. I'm getting there, but this is episode 2, so I've done it twice now. And I feel good about it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm having fun. And hopefully here soon I'll have a guest on so you guys can listen to somebody other than me talk about shit. Talk about stuff. Ooh, almost messed up there. Hear me talk about stuff. And hear me talk to other people who are probably smarter than me, but I like to think I'm a smart guy. I definitely try to be, and I definitely like looking at this fantasy football stuff and doing it, so... So yeah, that's my show for today. It's not quite an hour long today, but it's tight ends, not quite as busy. So I think I'll save these last few minutes for my running back and wide receivers tiers, which are going to be super long because there's so many of them. So if it's over an hour the next couple of times, I'm sorry. So probably next week I'm going to do a drafting because the draft will be not next week. I might look at it this week and do some draft stuff, and then just do like a preview draft, a draft preview show, and then the week after the draft I will do a breakdown of the draft, and then after that I will go back to my tiers and I will do running back and wide receiver. And I might even throw in some IDP tiers just because I don't hear enough IDP stuff on podcasts, and I am a huge IDP guy, and I love doing IDP. So I might do some IDP tiers too. So, we might do these tiers for a few more weeks, and you get to see me rank all these players because I don't think there's enough IDP content out there. I know there's a lot out there, but I think there could be more because I love IDP. It's one of my favorite fantasy football ways to play. So that's a breakdown for the next few. Hopefully you guys will come hang out and have fun. Peace out.